Are you ready? Stand by.
Welcome to the 3 Gun Show, your source for technique, strategy, and match recon, brought to you by Armalite Rifles, LAG Tactical, and Breda Shotguns. I'm your host, Dave Hartman. This edition of the 3 Gun Show is a very wide-ranging conversation with Dean DeTurk.
This podcast is brought to you by Breda USA, Italian shotguns that are the best in the world. And this is a shotgun tech tip from Team Breda.
Hey, this is Dave Hartman for the 3 Gun Show, and we have Josh Tarrant of Team Breda, and he's here with a shotgun tech tip for you. Josh, what do you got?
Today we're going to talk about shotgun stance. Stance is incredibly important to be able to shoot a shotgun well, manage recoil. So first up, we're going to start at the feet. You want your feet wider than shoulder width apart. If you're right-handed, you want your left leg further forward. You want about 75% of your weight on your left leg, weight over the balls of your feet. You want to have a nice forward lean of your spine. Shoulder the shotgun, roll your shoulder forward to cradle. And that'll help you ride the recoil and get back on target faster.
That's another shotgun tech tip with Josh Tarrant from Team Breda. Thanks, Josh.
Check out Breda's B12i 3-gun ready inertia-driven shotgun at BredaUSA.com. That's BREDA. This podcast is brought to you by LAG Tactical. I've been using LAG gear for 3 years now, and I just got an upgrade into their new for 2018 MCS mag pouches. MCS stands for Modular Carry System and is a two-piece design that fits most double-stack 9 and 40 mags and most AR mags. That means I can loan gear to someone in need on the range, even if we're shooting different guns. I've been using these pouches for many matches now, and they've been great. I like that you can choose the retention based on what is required by the stage, Speed Demon or locked in tight. I've been shooting the low-cut Supernova holster as well, and it has been a dream. They make it in a mid and high cut too if you're into that, but I'm digging the low cut. Super fast draws and plenty of retention when you need it. Check them out, lagtactical.com, and use code 3GS in all caps to save yourself 10% when placing an order.
Thank you for tuning in to this edition of the 3 Gun Show podcast. It's your buddy Dave here, and as I record this, I'm in between matches, and I just shot the Colorado 3 Gun Championship, and it was a kick in the pants. Not kidding, that match was so much fun. Some of the best stages that I've ever seen at a match, and pretty cool that it was in my hometown. So really, really happy with the work and the effort that all the people put in to make that match happen, and couldn't be more proud that it happened in my home state. So thumbs up to the Colorado 3 Gun Championship and all the amazing folks that I got to talk to and meet and shoot with there, and the wonderful RO staff. So thank you very much for everyone that worked so hard to make that happen. The day this episode drops, I will be leaving for Forest Lake, Minnesota, and the Jeff Kirkwall Memorial match. I'm so excited for this match. I love the shooting culture in Minnesota, and the JKM is going to be one for the record books. This match is a fundraiser for the Task Force Dagger Foundation, and the match staff has a huge goal to raise $15,000 for the foundation. And one of the ways that they plan to do that is with a raffle featuring a JP rifle and a Vortex Optics Viper PST 1-6 on top of it. There's a link in the show notes at 3gunshow.com/episode 198 for you to enter to win. Entries are $20, and buy as many as you want, because the money all goes to the Task Force Dagger Foundation, which is a wonderful cause. Next up on the schedule for me is going to be TriggerCon in Washington, and I'm going to be there working the booth with the good folks from Vortex Optics. So if you're going to, come say hey. And if you're in the area, Washington area, go to TriggerCon. Come say hi to me. I'll be in the Vortex booth. Just walk in, shout, hey, Dave, and probably only like 2 or 3 of us will turn around. Now on to the show. Dean DeTurk is my guest this week, and we had an incredible conversation about keeping shooting fun, enjoying the variety the shooting sports offer, and who his early mentors were in the game, and what he learned. Plus, I learned that Dean is a history teacher, and we talk about his passion of helping young people progress in the shooting sports. And a topic that we rarely get into on the Three Gun Show, but something that is very important to Dean and many, many of you, and that is school security. I told you it was wide-ranging, didn't I? Now enjoy this one with Dean DeTurk.
Dean, welcome to the Three Gun Show.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm excited to have you, man. We met. It's been like over a year and a half ago now at a Rocky Mountain 3-gun, and we're just now getting the opportunity to connect. So the stars have aligned, and here we are.
Yeah, I'm glad we could finally hook up, and I know talking to you at the Rocky Mountain, we always we had a lot to talk about, and you had a lot of interest in what's going on. So I'm glad I could finally get on.
Yeah, man, I'm excited to chat with you. Your name always seems to come up when I'm talking to a lot of my friends in the 3-gun world, especially those on the East Coast, and probably for good reason too. You've got a big match coming up here in the 3-man 3-gun, and it's something that several other people have modeled other matches after, and I want to get into your story a little bit here. But before we do that, why don't we get a little bit of an idea of your background as a person, and maybe what you do when you're not shooting. So, who's Dean DeTurk when he's not on the range?
I'm actually a high school teacher. I taught history the last 19 years.
No kidding.
And the last 2 years I actually switched over. I'm now in charge of our high school's alternative ed program. So I basically have kids that may have run into some trouble here or there, either at school, bringing stuff to school they shouldn't have, or something like that have multiple disciplinary issues. So I have those students now all day. And I pretty much teach them. They do a lot of online stuff, but I have them throughout the day and try to get them back on the right track so I can send them back into the regular ed classroom.
Interesting. Well, so Dean, since I've met you in person, I've shaken your hand. I know you're a big dude. Now, are you intimidating to high school students, or how does that go?
I would think so. I mean, a lot of them, I know when I talk to them, they're always like, they'll be like, "Don't mess with DeTurk," or I've heard other kids tell some kids like, "Look, don't mess with him," he'll hurt you. But I've never really had to put hands on anybody. Obviously you don't want to do that, but
sure.
I think is some intimidation factor there, which is good. I mean, I want to earn the kids' respect because I give them respect and they know I'm going to treat them fairly. But, any little bit of help I can get in doing that is always good. So I guess that intimidation factor definitely helps with kids that are a little troubled or kids that are more willing to test authority. I think it helps out a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Now, do your students know what you do for fun on the weekends?
Yeah, most of them do. I've had kids like come in and be like, "Hey, we saw you on YouTube or not YouTube, but online, or we saw videos of you, and man, that's crazy, So the word gets out. I mean, most of the other teachers know, and I've even had kids. I had a kid one time who kind of challenged me, and a pretty heavy-duty gang member, and this was years ago, and one of the other kids took him aside and showed him some videos, and he actually came back and apologized. Like, "Mister, I won't mess with you. I'm sorry. I apologize for being disrespectful." So I always get a kick out of that. That's always a good story to tell, that here's this, kind of gang member, and one of his buddies pulled him aside and like, "Don't mess with DeTurk. Not only is he big, but he can shoot," and they showed him a video, and he kind of came back with his tail between the legs the next day. But, so yeah, kids know. And like, I'm more in a city district, but we do have kids that hunt and stuff like that. So they know I'm interested in a lot of outdoor activities as well. I like to hunt and do a very little bit of fishing, but so we have kids that are involved in the outdoors and things like that. So we talk to them about that, just like talking about a kid about playing soccer or football or anything like that.
Right. So you kind of keep it to the sporting aspect of it.
Yes. Yeah. Obviously it's a touchy subject politically.
Sure.
And, just like I don't want anti-gun teachers promoting that in the classroom, I try to be neutral as far as promoting. I want to promote safe gun handling and using guns appropriately, obviously not doing anything illegal. But, from a professional standpoint, I kind of have to be careful about promoting agendas in school.
Right.
But I think it's good. Being a teacher, there are a lot of teachers that aren't as conservative today. But even talking to a lot of them in the faculty room and stuff like that, even with some of the tragedies we've had recently, a lot of them are more open-minded than a lot of people think. And I do know teachers that, when it comes to, when they talk about arming teachers, some are obviously against it. And there's some that are, well, why doesn't DeTurk have a gun?
Right.
He would be somebody that, would be safe and, protective of the other students. But, in my position, I try to be neutral. Obviously, too, it's to protect my job. I can't go in there and roll out an agenda with the students. But
And
I
it's
think it's good.
Not really an appropriate venue anyway, right?
No, it's my job, and just like, I know the agenda comes up with, the football players and things like that. Look, at my job, I have to do my job. My job is to protest, and it's not to push an agenda. That's a professional setting for me. And that's the way a lot of people feel about, other people protesting or pushing their agenda at work. But it is good. Kids do come up and ask questions, and even teachers, they'll come up, and the ones that are more open-minded, especially, and be like, well, what do you think about this? Or, what do you think about buying guns and who should have what kind of guns? And a lot of them are just misinformed. So when, I talk to them, I also work part-time at a small gun shop. And, when I explain to most of these people that, look, you can't just buy a gun online. It doesn't just come to your door in the mail. When I explain to them about background checks and stuff like that, it is a good teaching tool for me to teach people about the firearms industry and, how purchasing firearms really happens. Because a lot of them, when they find out the steps you do go through legally, they do turn the other way a little bit. They'll start to understand and be like, oh, well, we didn't know that. And now we understand. And I think that's something that I enjoy too, getting more adults more informed about firearms and stuff like that, and letting them realize it's not just, as easy as some people think, to purchase a gun and things like that, so that they're more, let's say if they were on the fence, then I can bring them a little bit more to the pro-gun side than the anti-gun side. Yeah.
So first of all, good for you for not making it your, like an agenda or anything. I like that aspect of it from my personal perspective as well, because what I try to do is just basically be a good role model and a good dude, right? So if people go to the voting booth and they are voting on something that's pro-gun rights or anti-gun rights, they can think in their head, well, I know Dave, and Dave has a lot of guns, and he's a cool dude, so maybe not all gun owners are bad dudes, right?
Right, and I think, honestly, if there's somebody is way to the left, and they're so anti-gun that they're just ridiculous, unfortunately, you can't just talk to them in a adult conversation and get them to understand the other side. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the unfortunate thing about it. But there are a lot of people that are on the fence when you explain to them and you're open to them and honest to them. And like you said, they understand that, hey, man, this guy's a normal guy. He's not crazy. He's not, like ridiculous in his beliefs. And he explained this to me, and maybe I was on the fence. So they may not run out and buy a gun, and they may not go build an AR in their basement, but they're going to be a lot more open to, like you said, when they do go to the polls, understanding, not judging a candidate just based on one or two issues like that.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you find yourself like being the subject matter expert in the faculty lounge or with administrators or anything like that?
Yeah, pretty much. They talk to me about stuff, and anytime issues come up, people usually talk to me about it. And, even the joke, I can say the joke is with our local police, look, if anything happens, get to DeTurk's room and give him a rifle. Now, whether that really happens or not, but, even local law enforcement, me being in the building, they know that sometimes backup's a long way away. Now, legality of that is probably never happened. But, that is kind of the joke that, DeTurk's room is the safest room, even though I can't have anything on property.
Right.
They at least, they're at least like, well, at least go to DeTurk's room. He'll try to protect people.
I like it.
Yeah.
It's good. So your classroom is a good place to be then.
Yeah. And, I understand, like, hey, block the door, do stuff, and the unfortunate circumstances are, like, it's tough for people not to do anything. My thing is they're like, hey, just lock your doors. Well, if I know somebody's attacking our kids or doing something, I don't want to just wait. I don't want to just let somebody do something horrible to other people. So even if you're not prepared or you're not really adequately armed to do something, I think it's hard to just sit back and let stuff happen. And I think that's where, when it comes to arming teachers or possibly, definitely having police in school, I think that's where, the discussion has to go. I don't want to be a victim, but I don't want to sit back in my room knowing, well, they can't get in my room, but I hear somebody doing something to someone else down the hallway. That's I think that would be extremely difficult to live with and not trying to do something, Yeah,
absolutely. And that's, God, I hope for both of us we're never in that situation, but, man, I can't even imagine just sitting still and listening to bad things happen and thinking like, oh, well, our door's locked. We're fine in here, kids.
Yeah, and I mean, that's something that, like you said, I hope it never happens. And, man, you don't even want to think about it.
Yeah.
But that is that nightmare that, knowing, man, I'm not saying, who knows what they would do in those situations, but the worst case scenario is after something horrible happens, sitting there knowing that, man, if I just would have had something, or if I just would have had access to something, maybe I could have done something.
Mm-hmm.
But because I didn't, I wasn't able to do something, or I wasn't able to help. And that's something that, unfortunately, I think a lot of people think about. And it's not even just in schools, but even at workplaces. There are a lot of workplaces that don't allow people to carry. And you see tragedies happen in all aspects, different businesses and different things like that. So, unfortunately, that's something you just kind of got to deal with, I guess.
Yeah. My old job was the exact same way. I got reprimanded one time for having a gun calendar on my desk, one of those page-a-day things.
Yeah.
And it was one of those like, hey, you really should consider how other people feel with that. I'm like, with what? What are we talking about here? Is like these scissors, this pencil, like what are we talking about? And yeah, it was my calendar. But yeah, so there are totally non-permissive environments. But I didn't know you're a teacher, Dean. So I'm learning along with the audience here, and I appreciate you sharing that and sharing that point of view, because it's interesting to hear that from someone who lives it every day.
Yeah, and I know my appearance. I know with the beard and stuff, people are like, you're a teacher? I'm like, yeah, I'm a teacher. But I don't think it hinders anything. But yeah, I do. I enjoy it. I like working with the kids. I coached for a number of years, and even now, one of the best things and one of the things I enjoy is teaching lessons, and especially at the 3-gun, the junior camps. I think that's, to me, giving back to the sport. Unfortunately, we see a lot of people involved in the sport that I think do good things and are great shooters and do a lot of things for, the sport that way. But, sometimes it seems like when we're looking at camps and things like that, it's tough to find instructors, or it's tough to find people to give back. And, that's one of the issues, with our sport, is if we don't allow it to grow and we don't train and teach young kids about the sport and how to enjoy not just 3-gun, but all sorts of shooting sports and outdoor activities, we're going to lose that.
All right.
When you look at just the number of hunters in our country, in some states that are, being decimated, we just don't have that younger generation getting out and enjoying the outdoors and, all kinds of shooting sports that, that's a really big responsibility, I think, for us shooters. Get out there and help young kids appreciate the sport and help show, their parents that, hey, look, this is a viable sport. It might not be as mainstream as baseball and football. And, I played sports all through, out high school and college and stuff like that. But, this is another aspect of sports that a lot of people don't get. When you talk about the shooting sports, unfortunately, a lot of people don't look at it as the same way they do about baseball and things like that. Like, how many 12-year-olds are out there playing baseball? How many 12-year-olds are out there playing football?
Mm-hmm.
Hundreds, in every school. But when you talk about the shooting sports, man, it's something the younger generation, unfortunately, is not getting involved in as much as I wish they were.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I guess the access to ranges has to be difficult. The responsibility factor, transporting firearms. There's all kinds of logistics that go into it. Whereas, baseball, one of the things you use in baseball, it could be a murder weapon as well, and that's done 30 yards from the back door of the school. So
right.
It's interesting that that juxtaposition there. One of the coolest places that I've been and seen the scholastic shooting sports in action was Forest Lake Sportsman's Club in Minnesota, where they have like a very active youth shooting program for clay sports, trap, skeet, etc. So, do you guys have anything like that where you teach?
No, we don't. We have we just got a junior Air Force ROTC program.
Okay.
And they do shoot bows. They did get permission to have an archery, not club, but I guess an archery activity, which is good. But my high school where I went, we had a rifle team. And I know there for a while, there were as many kids on the rifle team as were trying out for some of the other sports.
No kidding.
Yep. And that was always a big thing, and it still is. I know we had I hate to say I don't know the young lady's name, but I do know we had a young lady, I believe it was a year or two ago, that was really progressing in the sport and really doing well in small bore. And there was talk of her possibly going out to the Olympic Training Center and things like that. And that's something that, is, a 1 in a million chance. So, that's a good opportunity. But we do have a few clubs around and a few schools that do have small bore teams.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's cool. With the shooting sports, when you talk about like the opportunities in the Olympics, there's also opportunities for some schools with scholarships. And if you're a female, it seems like the opportunities are even wider, right? Because there's less females in the shooting sports than there are males, and less competition for those scholarship dollars.
Yes. And, there are I know there's some colleges that have trap teams and things like that. Unfortunately, some of the colleges, I know West Point, and obviously being the military academy, but they do have a combat weapons team that focuses more on combat-oriented skills for obvious reasons. But they have been involved in shooting some 3-gun matches and things like that. They've come down to my club before. Actually, a few years ago, for a couple of years, I went up there and helped shoot with the cadets and things like that. And I believe they have a trap team, and I'm not sure if they have a pistol team. But yeah, you see that definitely in the military academies a little more. But I think it is something where some colleges are starting to recruit more of the shooting sports athletes, because, like you said, a young woman definitely has some more opportunity there. For a guy, it's a little tougher, but anything we do to enhance the sport is definitely beneficial to everyone.
Yeah, and I'm on record of giving IDPA and USPSA a hard time about pretty much everything they do, but that's humor. There's little truth to it, but I'm always of the opinion of like whatever shooting sport you choose is totally cool. Just do something, and then outdoor sports as well. It's not like there's a lot of competitive hunting or college scholarships for hunting, but those are important as well. So, Dean, you mentioned you're into the outdoor sports as well. So, did you grow up like in that type of environment?
Yeah, pretty much. I grew up. My parents, we didn't really have a farm, but we had about 30 acres.
Mm-hmm.
Most of it woodland. So I grew up shooting 22s and, 22 rifles and some pistols. And I grew up hunting from a pretty early age, both rifle and some small game, and then archery hunting. And it's just something I always enjoyed. I loved being out in the woods after school when I wasn't involved in, regular stick and ball sports. And it's just one of those environments that I grew up working on the farm a little bit, things like that. My brother-in-law has a large dairy farm, and those were things, I always enjoyed being outside. So that's what really led me into the shooting sports. I always would go out and plink, as kids. I think a lot of us were out there shooting tin cans and, shooting pine cones or whatever we could find to shoot and, knock off a wall, or, how many times can I shoot that small tree with my 22 before it falls over, kind of stuff like that. Yeah, I remember when I graduated to the 1022, I thought it was a, a Dylan arrow on the side of a Huey. I remember, man, this is great. I shoot 30 rounds and not reload, But, and so I always was involved in shooting and the outdoors like that. And I think that's kind of what guided me towards 3-gun and towards some shooting sports.
Mm-hmm. So when did you first discover the shooting sports that in like an organized fashion rather than like the plinking fashion?
Probably it was about 14 years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was a while ago. I was at our local gun club, and I was actually just shooting my carry pistol. Because even once I turned 21, I got my concealed carry permit. I was pretty much always in the mindset, like, you need to practice. I'm very competitive and probably almost too competitive. I know sometimes my boys and my wife don't enjoy my competitiveness. When I yell at my wife when we're playing miniature golf and she gets angry. Yeah, she doesn't like to play miniature golf with me anymore because let's just say I may have yelled at her for missing what I thought was an easy putt. It didn't go over well.
My God, that's awesome. I mean, not really awesome, but that's hilarious.
I mean, everything I do, I try to be as good as I can at. And I mean, there are things I do that I just enjoy that I know I'm never going to be great at or good at. But I was at the range shooting my carry gun, and there's this guy next to me in the next bay, and I just hear this, like, it's rapid fire shots. And then there's a break. And then I'd hear this beep, and I'd hear shooting again. I'm like, man, what's this guy doing? So I walk over there, and the gentleman's name was Cliff Seawagon, and he's a longtime member of our club, and he's there shooting an open IPSC pistol, and he's using a timer and he's practicing, and I'm like, hey, what are you doing? What is that thing you got there with this dot on the top? And, that was pretty long ago, and, open guns were pretty much the way they are now, but I'd never seen something like that before.
Yeah, and if you haven't seen them before, they look like space guns.
Yeah, and he was really friendly and really the person who got me into organized shooting. He showed me his gun. He's like, man, shoot a couple mags through it, and pretty much probably within 48 hours, I ordered an open pistol, which
nice.
Jump in with both feet.
Yeah, might as well.
Yeah, and he really got me into the shooting sports. At the time I was racing some motocross, and quite honestly, I enjoyed it, but I wasn't very good at it. And I found I was hurting on Thursday for races from Sunday.
Oh,
and and I'm like, man, I like doing this, but I had a lot of fun, but I just wasn't real great at it. I mean, I average guy just out there riding around the track, racing, having fun. And I started picking up the pistol, and right away, Cliff's like, man, you can shoot. You should think about doing these competitions. We have them at our home club, And like I said, within 48 hours, I think I ordered an open gun and bought a different single stack just to shoot single stack 45. And from there on, it was pretty much sold my motorcycles and just started buying more guns. And you know how it is in the shooting sports. It just keeps expanding. I shot open for a little bit, and I shot a bunch of production and single stack. I had some goals to when I started shooting open. I wanted to make master and open, and then I wanted to. I started shooting production because I figured out, like, you kind of, you laugh. I'm like, man, maybe starting out and shooting an open gun isn't the smartest move. Learn the basics and really learn some of those fundamentals. So I bought a production gun, and I made master in production, and then I made master in single stack. And by that time, it was probably about 2 years, maybe 3 years of shooting pistol. That's when I got introduced to 3-gun. And quite honestly, man, once I started shooting 3-gun, I don't know if I've shot a pistol-only match in the last 8 or 10 years.
No kidding.
I mean, I'm not saying I'm against it. I
Sure.
still think the pistol skills are definitely the ones that are the most important, because I think they fade much more quickly than rifle or shotgun skills to a degree.
Mm-hmm.
I think pistol is one of the tougher of the 3 guns to shoot at a high level without, if you don't shoot it, those skills degrade pretty quickly. But I actually started shooting 3-gun and kind of never looked back. By that time, I had taken over our local lipstick club. And once I shot my first probably 2 or 3 3-gun matches, I pretty much talked to the guys and said, hey, look, I want to shoot 3-gun. Let's start running 3-gun matches. And at that time, there were not many 3-gun matches in southeastern PA, if not many at all. And it's really taken off. So that's one thing I think I'm proud of. I mean, I definitely was not the first person to shoot 3-gun in this area.
Mm-hmm.
But I think as far as really pushing it and getting other clubs to shoot it and kind of helping other people in the area become interested in it, now most of our local matches, you'll get 70, 80 guys pretty easily.
Yeah, that's a healthy size match.
Yeah, I mean, I run a 4-match series at Topton, and we filled up for all 4 matches with like 70 guys, and I think it was 8 hours.
Oh, wow.
So that says a lot. I mean, there's another local club around here, York, PA, and they run really good matches, and they fill up just as fast. I mean, they run a series as well throughout the year, and that thing fills up pretty quick. And then there's a newer club on Alani, and they run some really good matches. Unfortunately, I haven't been to any yet because a lot of times it conflicts with some of my other bigger matches, but they fill up pretty quick as well. So when you look within an hour driving of my house, there are 3 matches that pretty much get 60 to 80 people every month.
That's awesome. That is like a healthy culture there.
Yeah. So that's good. And we pull people from Jersey, Maryland. Even there's some diehard guys that travel down from New York, to shoot, because there's, obviously because of some of the gun laws up there, you just don't see the 3-gun matches anymore.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about the growth of 3-gun in your area, but before we get there, what was it about that first 3-gun match that made you completely switch disciplines and drop the momentum that you had in the pistol sports to shoot 3-gun?
I think the big thing was the challenge. I think that's part of my competitiveness, is that I always want to be challenged, and I don't know if I want to say to do things people say I can't do, but I enjoy new challenges and changes. And my first 3-gun match was actually DPMS Tri-Gun Challenge.
Okay.
And the small gun shop I work at, the handgunner, the guy who owns it, Randy Hallbush, is pretty good friends with Randy Lute. And he knew I was shooting pistol, and I wasn't working there yet. I was pretty much begging him for a part-time job. But he's like, hey, there's this 3-gun thing we go to out at DPMS in Minnesota. He said, you ought to try this. So I had a shotgun that was kind of done, and I had the old M4 carbine with a 1x3 Leupold scope on the top, and I'm like, yeah, I'll do this. So that was actually my first big 3-gun match ever. And it was just amazing. I mean, I had such a good time. The stages were great. Randy Luth is such a great individual. As far as me being some kid from Pennsylvania who's, friends with the guy he knows, we shot with him. I mean, he was more than helpful, really great guy. It was a great match. But I think one of the things that really drew me to 3-gun was it's the people.
Yeah.
And look, I've shot IPSC or USPSA for a while, and to me, it was competitive. It was fun. But there were a lot of people that I just felt kind of were in it for the wrong reasons. And I'm not saying everybody. I mean, there were great guys I shot with, and we had a lot of fun. But it seemed like guys were rooting against you. It was like your toe touched the line. You did this. You did. It was this like just a different environment. And the 3-gun match at DPMS, man, everybody was there to help you. It was like, man, this is your first match. Hey, you need shell holders, man. I got tons of, I got shell caddies. At that time, we were still using the old choke, strip 4 off at a time or 2 off at a time.
The weekend shuffle.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. Hours in the basement practicing that. Yeah. And now it doesn't matter anymore.
Nope. All that wasted time.
Oh, man. But, it was, I just felt the people were much more genuine, very friendly. I mean, I've been to 3-gun matches where guys' rifles go down, their pistols go down, or, bad stuff happens to equipment, and they don't even get off the stage, and there are 3 or 4 guys there like, hey, look, you need something? I got a spare gun. You can use my gun. I got extra ammo. Don't worry about long range. You can use my ammo. It just seems like the people involved in 3-gun, especially in the beginning, and I still think it's true today, they're very competitive, but they want to win because they beat somebody heads up, not because something bad happened or because, oh, your gun broke, haha, guess what? You can't finish the match.
Yeah.
And I just think the caliber of people in 3-gun are the kind of people I want to be around. They're not only, good pro-Second Amendment people, but they're also genuinely good people who are there to have fun and would do anything for you. I mean, I had a match where Buddy was supposed to bring my ammo and he forgot it. I wouldn't say anything Robbie Wheaton, but that it may have been Robbie. And I'm in the parking lot like an hour before the first stage. I'm like, Robbie, where's my ammo? And he's like, oh, dude, I forgot it. And I thought he was joking. I'm like, no, come on, dude, where's my ammo? He's like, no, I forgot it. I'm like, oh. And in 30 minutes, I don't know how many people, I probably had enough ammo in the back of my car to shoot that match 3 times.
Oh, man.
Guys like, hey, look, I got 100 rounds. I can give you 100 rounds. I can give you 50 rounds. And that's something about the sport that I think makes it fun. It's still tough. It's still competitive. And I still want to beat everybody I shoot against. But I want to beat them because their gear worked. They had enough ammo. They had, they knew how I was going to shoot a stage. They knew all that stuff. And we just shot it heads up, and whoever wins, wins.
Yeah.
And that's what it was about 3-gun, I think. And it was also a challenge. Like I said, definitely I think 3-gun is probably one of the tougher shooting sports just because you have to master 3 different firearms. And to me, that's a challenge, and that's what I enjoy.
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of people will spend, in the USPSA and IDPA games, they'll spend an entire lifetime trying to master not only one platform, but like one specific model of pistol,
Yes.
And we're out here with, 3 times the guns and trying to master each of them and maintain the skill level in the ones that we're neglecting while we're trying to master that other one. And it's a constant juggling act.
Yes. And look, there's some amazing pistol shooters out there. And I've shot with and seen some of the guys winning USPSA nationals, and they definitely have a skill set that's amazing.
Yeah.
But to me, like you said, it's that challenge of being able to do more than just one thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and their skill level, honestly, like, look, some of the high level USPSA guys in a pistol match, they're probably going to kick most of the butts of the 3-gun guys. But that would be like saying, you know, the guy who wins the grand trap shooting contest, he's an amazing shotgun guy, but that's all he does. He just shoots that shotgun.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I started to dabble in some PRS stuff, and it's definitely a different game. You know, I thought my rifle skills were pretty solid, and I think I'm probably an average or above average rifle shooter. But when you go into that PRS realm, you know, I shot a match in Ohio this weekend, and I just got my butt kicked.
Yeah.
You know, it's a different mindset, and it's a skill set to be successful. And that's kind of why I'm working into that now, is because I just want to be challenged. I still love shooting 3-gun, and I know by far I'm not like some super 3-gun shooter as far, you know, let's face it, Danny and Greg and Keith and some of those guys are, man, they are the legends in the 3-gun world. But, you know, I've come to a point where, man, I love shooting 3-gun, but now I just want to try something else.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and the other thing is those skills that I think I learned in the PRS style of shooting are only going to come back and help me in 3-gun as well.
Sure. Yeah, it's like going and shooting a pistol match and then coming back with renewed skill level in your 3-gun pistol game.
Yes. Yeah. So, you know, that's just it's a different aspect, and I think it's good. There was a time where I was having trouble shooting flying clays, you know, like coming off poppers and stuff like that. So we went and shot sporting clays a few times, and I'll tell you what, you know, after shooting sporting clays for a few rounds, that now when I go and I see, you know, a toaster throwing a bird, I'm like, oh yeah, that's easy. You know, that thing's just going straight up in the air. It's not going away from you. It's not a rabbit running across the ground. It's not, you know, some crazy angle shot. I'm like, yeah, it doesn't worry me anymore. You know, so I think dabbling in some of those other shooting sports definitely builds your confidence too when you go back to 3-gun.
Yeah, yeah, and it's fun to get outside of your box or your bay, if you will, and go shoot those other things. Sporting clays is one of my favorites. I'm absolutely terrible at it, but I can almost convince anyone to go shoot sporting clays with me, where it's difficult to get someone to go shoot a pistol match or a 3-gun match with you.
Yes. And I think, you know, some of it is too, I mean, sometimes you just need a break.
Yeah.
You know, like you can practice and practice and practice. And I think we've all been in that spot where we're practicing and you don't see those improvements. And I mean, you've got to practice correctly, but there's some times where you're doing stuff and you're kind of in a doldrum, you know. And I think the worst thing in the world is, you know, getting up and being like, man, I should go practice today, but I really don't want to.
Yeah.
Well, going and practicing that day then probably is not going to be as productive as it should be. So maybe you say, man, let's go shoot sporting clays, or, you know, let's go shoot some precision stuff, or maybe we're just going to go shoot pistol, or, you know, now that my boys are older, you know, some days I'll take them to the range and, you know, I won't get much practice done, but it's still, you know, I'm looking at passing it down to the next generation, and it's still doing something with the shooting sports that is fun. And I think sometimes then it's easier to refocus the next time you get out on the range and you want to practice.
Yeah. That's a really good point. I was having a period of time last year where I was in the same rut where I felt like, okay, well, I'm not getting where I want to be with the effort that I'm putting in. And I was talking to Scott Green from Reno, and he said, go to the range, don't bring any of your 3-gun gear, just plink with 22s. And I did, and it was fun, and there was no pressure. I just had a good time, you know, shooting whatever crap I could find on the range. And it was a good mental reset to realize, like, oh yeah, this can be fun, rather than, you know, like a practice grind that you have to do.
Yeah. And I think anytime, I mean, I don't think we can take ourselves too seriously. It is a game. You know, there's very there's very few people out there that really make a living at it. And I think that's something that, all 3-gun shooters have to understand, especially in this world. Today I see so many guys that, hey, I want to shoot 3-gun. How do I get sponsored? And I just kind of chuckle, and I'm like, man, if you're looking to get into 3-gun to be sponsored, you're in it for the wrong reasons. When we started shooting, there were very few people who were sponsored, and it wasn't about, what can I get? And, well, can I get this? And can I get that? It was just about loving the sport, and getting out there and being with those people. When you talk about some of the old school 3-gun guys, Benny Hill, and, I remember shooting with Dave Neth and Tate Moots and Bruce Pyatt and those guys, even Jerry and stuff with DPMS. It wasn't about the sponsorship to most guys. It was about loving the sport and just being with good people and having fun. And, once you lose sight of that, I think that's where that's where then you get out there and you don't really want to practice. You're feeling pressure, or, if you feel pressure that, man, I got to do well or I might lose my sponsorship, I think you're in it for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, that's a very good point. And the I want to shoot 3-gun, how do I get sponsors? That's a question I get all the time. And my answer is always like, why do you want sponsors? And then usually most people will go away at that point.
Yeah, and unfortunately, because I am a sponsored shooter, I can't give them the answer I want to, because that would not look good professionally towards my sponsors. But it is mind-boggling, because, like when we started shooting and when I started shooting, I shot for a long time before I even thought of approaching sponsors.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, I was very lucky in that my first sponsor really came to me and said, hey, we've really seen improvement, from the last couple of years you've been shooting. Is there anything we can do for you? We'd like to help you out. And that was probably one of my proudest moments, in shooting. And that was Randy Luth. I'd shot the DPMS Trigun that first year, and I went out the next year. And then I think the first year, obviously, it was atrocious. It was a train wreck. I was dropping shells. I was missing stuff. I was like running by targets. I was like, holy crap, this is hard. And then the next year I went back, and I think I was like in the 30s. I'm like, man, this is pretty good. And then I think I got like an 18th. And then that year, Randy came to me that third year out there. He's like, hey, I've seen some improvement. He said, you're shooting well. You must be practicing. And, that to me was probably one of the biggest compliments, that here's a guy who shoots with some of the best shooters in the world, owned DPMS, and had been involved in the shooting sports for a long time. And that was a big deal. To me, that was huge. That was, like riding motocross and winning the Supercross series or something like that, and,
mm-hmm.
and I think, because of that, I appreciated it, and I appreciate anything my sponsors do for me. But I think today, like you said, some of these people getting involved, it's more about what can I get for free than what can I do for the people that are willing to help me.
What do you think that is? Do you think that's like the social media aspect of it? Like they see us running around in, NASCAR jerseys, and they think, oh, well, I guess you have to have that to shoot 3-gun?
I think so. I think some of it is. I think social media is great because it is there to help you promote. And anybody that does something for you as a shooter, obviously you want to help them out. And I look at it as an employment standpoint. Like, if you're going to sponsor me, I work for you. And I want to do whatever I can to help promote your products to other shooters. It's not always about what you get. Now, obviously, there is a point of, look, do I enjoy the things I can get from my sponsors? Of course I do. I'm not an idiot. But I started out shooting not even thinking about sponsorship.
Mm-hmm.
For years, you didn't even think about, man, could I get free guns? Could I get free scopes? Could I get free ammo? Could I get, I never even thought of that. And I spent a lot of money and a lot of time on my own just because I enjoyed the sport. And I think that is one of the things that annoys me the most about like people that, hey, I shot 2 or 3 matches. How do I get sponsored? If that's what you're in it for, you're not really in it for the shooting sport or because you enjoy it. And I think there's some people that, because of that social media aspect, maybe go out and shoot guns and, enjoy target shooting and just think, well, I'm just going to get a bunch of free stuff if I shoot 3 guns. How do I do it?
Yeah.
And that's just, it's annoying. But I also understand, I think some of it is their products of their environment. When you see all these people posting stuff online and like you said, everybody's got a jersey on. I think there is a misconception by some people that, these guys are all making a living shooting. And when we all know, everybody in the sport knows that's not really the way it works.
Yeah. And I'll admit that when I started the 3 Gun Show, I thought the same thing, is that all the dudes that I saw and ladies on 3 Gun Nation were professionals, and that was how they made a living. Because here in Colorado, when I started shooting in 2011, all up until I started the show, I was surrounded by people wearing T-shirts. We didn't have the jersey culture out here.
Yeah.
And even now, you go to a match and there's probably 8 dudes out of 60 that are wearing a jersey. And so I just assumed naively that those people are full-time shooter somehow. Like, I guess I didn't even do the napkin math of like how that made sense or anything. But so I can totally understand it because I thought the exact same thing. But it's interesting now to be, one of those people that people are asking for advice and trying to convince them, like, no, you shouldn't seek sponsorship first. You should seek to have fun.
Yeah. And I think the other thing that, I don't know if it spoils it, but I think there are a lot of people out there that may not necessarily be sponsored by a company, but want to wear a jersey. So they just put on it what they use. And coming from when I did race motocross and I worked in a shop that had some sponsored guys and something, like, I understand that that's the worst thing you can do. Because, one, if somebody is looking to sponsor you and they see you already have a sponsor on a jersey, they probably are not going to approach you.
Right.
There's a good possibility they won't approach you. But the other thing is like, I'm all for, and even before I had any sponsors, if I used something and it was great and I was talking to a new shooter or something, I definitely would promote that to them. I'd say, hey, man, this is the kind of sight I use, or hey, this is the ammo I'm using now, or this is, the magazine, these are the magazines I'm using, things like that, handguards, stuff like that. But I wasn't going to put their name on my jersey if they're not a sponsor, because that's not what sponsorship is about. In a way, then, if I had, I don't know, it's hard to kind of put out there, but like I've seen guys walk around and I'm like, hey, I didn't know, when I shot for Lancer Systems for a number of years. And I'd see a guy with Lancer on their jersey. I'm like, oh, man, how you doing? I didn't know you shot. Oh, I don't. I just like their products. And I'm like, well, that's not the way this is supposed to work. You're not supposed to just put a jersey, you're not supposed to just put a company's name on your shirt. And, I know some sponsors that I have now that, they don't like that either, because if that person isn't representing that company in a professional manner, it can actually hurt their brand. If you have a company on your shirt and you act like a knucklehead, companies can get hurt by that.
Absolutely.
I've seen people throw tantrums and do stupid things on the range, and they have a jersey on. And honestly, there have been times where I've been like, man, you know what? If that's the type of person that company wants to promote, they're probably not one that's going to get my business.
Honestly, I've thought that exact same thing. Like the connecting that company to that person, and thinking like 100% of the things that this person does, that company is okay with. Obviously that doesn't make sense, but as humans, when we see those two things and we see them as associated with each other, it's easy to draw that line, right?
Yeah.
It's just how your brain works.
And I mean, a rough example, when we went down to shoot one of the first Fort Benning 3-gun matches, a good friend of mine went down. And there was a fairly well-known shooter there. I'm not going to give any information. And my buddy walked up and was like, hey man, how you doing? I've seen you shoot, you're a really good shooter. And this person just kind of like looked at him and said, like, who are you? I don't know you. And like walked away. And to
weird.
this day, yeah, like just very, like just, and I just stood there and I was like, I can't believe that just happened. I was like, oh my gosh, that guy is a jerk. And to this day, there are a few sponsors that individual has at that time that I will not buy a product from because I'm just like pretty stubborn about that. Yeah. But I couldn't believe that. And in the 3-gun world, that is very rare. So many guys are so friendly and so willing to help, and it is a very social sport. That that's very uncommon. But to this day, there's some companies that person is sponsored by that I just will refuse to buy a product from because I'm like, man, that was just uncalled for.
Yeah. Well, and then there's the opposite direction, right? Which is the people that are standouts, the people that are good examples of people we like to see in 3-gun. Then you see who's on their jersey, and those are the people you want to support. So I think it can go both ways, and we always hope it goes the latter there. But Dean, let's switch up a little bit here while we're on this. Being a good steward for the sport. You talked about getting 3-gun into your local area in your local club, and how you've been able to see that grow over the years. Let's discuss that. What was it like to get that first 3-gun match at your local club? Did you meet any sort of resistance or anything?
I did a little bit. Now, luckily for me, I took over the USPSA matches at our local club, and I kind of just bullied 3-gun in. I was like, hey, look, I'm tired of shooting this pistol stuff. We're going to start shooting 3-gun. And we started shooting like 1 or 2 matches a year, and we got more popular. And then I was like, you know what? We're going to shoot 3 or 4 matches a year, And then I think it was about the 2nd or 3rd year, a good friend of mine, Matt Nagel, has always been like my assistant match director and always been there helping set up and things like that. And he definitely had the 3-gun bug as well. And we looked at each other one day after tearing down a pistol match, and I'm like, this is the last damn pistol match I'm shooting. Like, we're shooting all 3-gun next year. And he's like, I'm in. And by that time, we had a pretty good following. And so, honestly, we just kind of bullied it in. I will say, unfortunately, one of the deciding factors is I had run the Area 8 multi-gun championship one year. And I went to run it the next year, and I had to send in my stages to get approved. And a couple of the stages got rejected because, of course, with USPSA, you have too many shots from one position. You can't do this. You can't do that. And I said, look, I have a very limited bay to use for 3-gun. Our club has some very good facility, but, like anything, it was built long before 3-gun was popular. So we have some narrow bays where you can't do a whole lot. Mm-hmm. And they said, well, we're not going to approve this. You can't run this as an area match if you use these stages. And then I sat back and I'm like, well, if I don't run it as a USPSA match, I don't have to send you money either. And I can turn all that money back into the club, and we can buy more targets, and we can buy more props. And I ran the match, and like a week or 2 later, I get an email from somebody at USPSA. Hey, did you ever redo those stages? Isn't that match coming up? I said, oh, no, we ran that match. It was really successful. We just ran it as the 3-gun a 3-gun championship in the area. We didn't run it as USPSA. And by the way, next year we're not renewing our USPSA membership. We're just going to run 3-gun.
Oh, wow.
And it was never got an email reply from that. Nobody ever got back to me. But
that seems like an opportunity lost on their part.
Yeah, and the USPSA is I think they're a well-run, pretty well-organized organization. I'm not trying to bash them, but I think just for a long time they were kind of behind the curve when it came to multi-gun and 3-gun type things.
I feel like they still are.
Yeah, I do too, and I know they have their rules for a reason. And look, I've been criticized at my own club because, we don't have a per se this Bible of rules we use. I run a lot of our stuff on 3-Gun Nation rules, but then I'll have some changes for points and things like that, which are always pretty clear. Like it's in the stage description, like, hey, look, these misses are this much. We run a lot of time plus. And I'm a big fan of you have to hit a target. So it's, we run a lot of 10-second misses. Look, if you miss a piece of steel, it's 10 seconds. If you miss a pistol target, it's 10 seconds. Because I think you should be punished if you don't hit the target.
Right.
But our basic safety rules and things like that are run like just hundreds of other clubs across the country. But yeah, I think USPSA is hesitant, and I think some of that is because of that pistol mindset that they've really built their basis on. I know a local USPSA club that was very, very hesitant to allow PPC to shoot, or PCC. And we all know PCC is really gaining in popularity.
Yeah, hugely.
Hugely. And let's face it, to me, I think that's one of the ideal opportunities to bring youth into the sport because it's an easier platform to shoot than a pistol. If you just shoot PCC, it's only one thing to learn. So you're not trying to teach a young kid coming into the sport, oh, here's shotgun, here's pistol, here's rifle. And I think a young kid who's trained properly can see success. And I'm not saying they're going to win matches, but they can successfully shoot a match with a PCC fairly easily.
Right.
And let's face it, kids need to see success. If you send a kid out to shoot their first pistol match only, even if you train them and they're fairly good, they're probably going to get hammered pretty hard.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to make a lot of mistakes. They're going to miss. But with the PCC, I had my 2 boys shot one of their first matches with PCC the other year, and they both had a great time. They both beat a bunch of guys, and it's not like they're out there practicing a whole lot, but it's a fairly easy platform. And this club was very hesitant to shoot PCC, and I know what it was. It was because some of their shooters were afraid that I'm a top-level open shooter, and now somebody's going to come in, and I usually win matches, and now somebody's going to beat me with a PCC.
That is so weird. Like, how fragile does your ego have to be to think, like, oh, if I'm beat by a D-level pistol shooter because he's holding a PCC, I'm less of a person.
Right. And the other thing, I've heard all kinds of excuses. Oh, well, it's hard for start positions, or it's hard on the steel. And I'm like, look, that 9mm going through that 16-inch barrel is nothing like a 38 Super coming out of
Yeah, that's a good point.
Some hot load coming out of an open pistol. And unfortunately, that's something I think where USPSA has an opportunity to really open up. And like I said, I think that's a great platform for young kids to get into the sport. And also because it's relatively inexpensive. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, the elephant in the room oftentimes about 3-gun is, nobody wants to talk. It is very expensive.
Yeah.
And, till you get 3 quality guns and you get ammo and you practice and you get all the equipment, you're going to have a few $1,000s minimum wrapped up in that gear. Where you can go out today and buy a decent PCC for $800-900, put a dot on it, and buy a couple magazines, and you can be in the sport. And let's face it, when you're trying to get young kids involved, money is an option. I mean, that is a deciding factor.
Mm-hmm. Well, and with the PCC, like you've got the the satisfying thump of the 9mm hitting steel, and you can do that at pistol distances, right? You've got a red dot on top. You don't have to worry about the sighting plane. You just put that little red dot where the target is and pull the trigger. It's very simple. And then the other thing that I like about PCC, coming from having assisted with several youth classes over the years, is long guns are easy to control if people start to get out of hand. As a safety officer, you can grab a long gun way easier than you can grab a pistol.
Yeah, and I think a good safety officer, and I think good ROs, and there are a lot of guys out there that are very good ROs. Let's face it, we all know, and I think I've had a lot of experience as an RO. I can tell when someone's going to DQ. Like, I can almost see it coming. And with a long gun, it's a little easier to see, and you can almost start yelling muzzle before they get close.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, sometimes now the faster guys, unfortunately, when they DQ it generally is a really bad mistake, and they do it too quickly. But when you talk about new shooters, controlling that muzzle, or you can kind of see them starting to turn to shoot that target they ran past. And with the rifle, you can start yelling, and most of the time you can prevent from having to DQ them.
Mm-hmm.
But with that pistol, yeah, like you said, if they trip and fall, or if they can turn that muzzle so quickly that, then you want to send somebody home. And, that's the last thing as an RO I want to do, especially to a new shooter. I mean, if they break the rules, they got to go. Safety has to be the highest priority.
Right.
But that's the last thing you want to do. I hate DQing people. I had to DQ a guy, I think it was last year at a match, and the guy went to the match director at York, went to Howard, and was like, I DQ'd. And he's like, okay, who was ROing you? And he goes, Dean. And this was probably a good compliment from Howard. He's like, Dean, they DQ'd you. You're DQ'd. He's like, you really, like, we have that 180 rule, and I always tell guys, look, I probably have a 185. I have to be able to stop you, and I have to definitely see from a vantage point where I am that you did break the 180.
Uh-huh.
I'm obviously I'm a safe RO, and if you break the rules, I'm going to stop you. But I'm not one of those guys who's like, well, you were right on the line, and I just wanted to stop.
Yeah.
You got to do it. You got to break the rules. And
tie goes to the shooter.
Yeah, the tie goes to the shooter. And Howard's like, if Dean DQ'd you, you broke the 180. And the guy's like, oh, okay, But, yeah, definitely with the long gun, it's easier, especially for a junior, to control. And like you said, it's easier to shoot. And I think to get people to see success when they start out with something, that's only going to enhance their interest in the sport.
Mm-hmm.
A perfect example, I teach a lot of lessons. And I get a lot of people coming in the gun shop just wanting a basic pistol class. And a lot of times it's a husband and wife. And if I had $1 for every time I pulled out the AR and let the wife shoot the AR, and at first where she's like, oh my gosh, that's one of those guns, or that's one of those black guns, or that's an assault rifle, And I'm like, look, just shoot it. And after they shoot a few rounds, they see how easy it is to be successful. And they realize that it's just a gun, just like any other gun. But they can hit things very easily. Let's face it, an AR is a very simple platform to use.
Yep.
They're accurate and they're easy to shoot. And all of a sudden, I've had multiple times, I've had the wife then tell the husband, we need to get one of these. I like shooting this. This is fun. And that's what we need, not just the gun industry and not just the shooting sports, but I mean, that's something that also breaks down a lot of those, anti-gun beliefs, or, that, well, I don't mind a pistol, but I don't want an assault rifle. That's such an antiquated way to think.
Yeah. Yeah, and the PCC is like the perfect platform, right? Because it is a scary looking AR-15 generally, and it's also super easy to shoot. There's not a ton of recoil, although we like to claim that there's way more recoil than our 3-gun rifles, and and most times it sounds like they have suppressors on them compared to the 3-gun rifles that we usually shoot.
Yeah, and so I think that's something really good coming into the sport. And like I said, for kids, let's face it, there are a lot of young kids out there too that really struggle with the shotgun. One, because of weight and length, and two, because of recoil.
Yeah.
And if you can get a kid to shoot PCC, sometimes you can cut out some of the shotgun work. And once again, if they become successful and as they grow, hey, maybe they're 10, 11, or 12, or even some, 13, 14-year-olds are, really small in stature. If they can be successful, and then down the road they switch over to shooting, TAC ops or open or something like that, or limited vision, that's great. But I think as a shooting sports community, we have to be open and accept anybody willing to promote the shooting sports, especially with our youth.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's especially like to your point there, if you start out, a youth shooter with the PCC, when they're too small for a shotgun, they get 2 years of experience on that PCC. Now they're big enough for the shotgun. They move on to 3-gun. They have 2 years of competition experience rather than just sitting on the sidelines, and maybe they'll be into it in 2 years when they're big enough.
And that's one of the things too, it's one gun, it's simple. And as much as I really enjoy 3-gun, I still recommend for new shooters that come in the shop, I usually tell them, look, just go shoot a couple pistol matches.
Yeah.
Understand walking stages with one gun. Understand the rules. Be safe with one gun first. Because I've seen a ton of people, get DQ'd or get frustrated easily trying to jump into 3-gun because it is not an easy sport. There's a lot of things going on. Being safe with all 3 guns, remembering how you're going to shoot the stage. And, as the sport becomes more popular, stages become a lot more complicated, and I think, encouraging people to get out and shoot a couple pistol matches first or shoot PCC where you're only worried about that one platform, it's only going to make them more successful.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, have you shot much PCC yourself?
I've shot like 2 matches. I really like it. And I'd like to shoot more, especially because for the exact reason, my boys are starting to get into the shooting sports more. My older boy just the other day is like, Dad, Friday's your first day off from school. Now they've been off most of this week. And he's like, can we go to the range? I want to shoot. And they both got, actually, I bought them both PCCs for Christmas.
Nice.
One, and for obvious reason, one, look, 9mm definitely is cheaper than 223.
Mm-hmm.
But also because I want them to learn, those safe gun handling skills and be proficient with the rifle. But that PCC is a much easier gun for them to shoot. Plus it is the fun factor. Shooting steel is fun. We can't shoot steel with the rifle at 20 yards.
Right.
Even 30, 40 yards, it's I wouldn't recommend it. Let's face it, all steel manufactured, like, look, 100 yards or more. Now, we've all shot steel at 50 yards at matches. But there is something about hearing that bullet hit that piece of steel or seeing that piece of steel get knocked off a base. And when we go out and shoot with those PCCs, that's something they enjoy. If we can hang 3-4 pieces of steel and they can ding, 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 and rip through those and be successful, that's going to encourage them. Guess what? Next week, they're going to want to go out again.
Yeah.
You can't beat people down. If someone isn't successful and isn't having fun at first, it's difficult to keep them interested in the sport.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So when you're talking about growing, the sports from like an individual level, it sounds like you do a lot of classes and a lot of teaching. How do you keep the knowledge input high and also the fun factor high.
And that's a tough thing. I think sometimes I overwhelm people in my classes. I think definitely coming from a teaching background, that helps, being able to talk to people, being able to break it down and teach simple fundamentals first.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things, in my intro classes and in some of the lower level classes I try to teach basics. Just teach real simple, very easy fundamentals. And let's face it, if you talk to some of the top level shooters in the country, those are still things they practice.
Oh, yeah.
They practice the fundamentals. When you look at 3-gun, pistol shooting comes down to what? Front sight, trigger press.
Mm-hmm.
Sideline, shotgun, same rifles, very similar things. Load the shotgun, dump the guns efficiently and on safe, muzzle control, target transitions. Those are all basic fundamentals, and it's just getting quicker and more efficient at those fundamentals that are going to make you a better shooter. And to make it fun, a lot of times we'll try to turn it into little competitions, and it's not competing against necessarily other shooters, but it's competing against yourself. And one of the things I like to do whenever we teach a fundamental or we start a new skill set, let's say we're going to work on something with a shotgun, is I'll have a problem or a scenario, and I'll have them shoot it, and I'll say, look, shoot this the way you want to shoot it. If we're going to do a loading drill or we're going to do shooting, a popper and that activates a flying bird and then another popper in the bird, I'll have them shoot it one way. And then we'll practice a particular skill set that I want them to work on. And we'll practice a few times, and then we'll have them do it again at the end. And most of the time, they see that improvement. And I think one of the things with any type of training is if you want it to be effective, you have to see some sort of improvement. You have to see a tangible difference from what you did before, and then you put in your time, and then what you do after. And I think that's what will keep, that's what makes it fun. Because let's face it, we all want to win. We all want to do well. And if you train and train and train and you don't get any better, pretty soon people are going to lose interest and they're not going to want to train.
Yeah. So what do you do with someone if they're at that point where it's like, man, I'm just not having any breakthroughs. I'm kind of at a training plateau. How do you help them through that?
Generally, I'll look at what is the specific issue. Like where is your weakness? And what I'll try to then break down is work on that individual weakness. And there's a lot of little things within 3-gun that I think a lot of people don't realize. Gun transitions, I think, are crucial. When you think about dumping a gun, a long gun, or dumping a pistol, when you watch the top shooters do that, they do it the same way every time. They do it very quickly and very efficiently.
Mm-hmm.
And let's face it, there are arrays that we may shoot that you take the top 30 guys, and that one array, those top 30 guys might shoot that array all within a second or 2 seconds of each other.
Yep.
But 2 or 3 guys are going to do their gun transitions flawlessly every time, and they're going to beat everybody else by a second or a second and a half just on that gun transition. And a lot of times that's something people don't look at. And in 3-gun, I mean, everything is a game of seconds or half seconds. And what that means to me is, look, if you want to be at the top of your game and you look at the guys winning matches, a second, 2, 3 seconds on a stage is a lifetime.
Yeah.
And it seems crazy, but, Danny and Greg and those guys who are always battling for those top spots, 2 or 3 seconds is a difference between a match winner or second place. And what I try to tell all the people I instruct in this and the kids is, look, you might not be competing for that top spot, but the group of people you're competing against, that 1 or 2 seconds is going to mean just as much to gain a spot on them as it does for the guys winning the match.
That's true.
and to keep your head in the game, that's what you have to think about. But yeah, if someone's in a stagnant spot, sometimes too, the thing is practice something else. Practice, are you missing targets? Then you need to slow down. Are you, one of the things with the way 3-gun is scored, honestly, when it's 2 on paper and it's 2 anywhere, if I see a new shooter and like they're shooting, 2 shots within an inch of each other in the middle of the target, you hate to say this, but I usually start to tell them, look, you need to shoot faster.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it's 2 anywhere and you're shooting 2 A's on top of each other in the middle, as a new shooter, you're probably shooting too slow.
Right.
You hate to burn that mentality, but, the guys that are going fast, look, if they have an A and a C on every target, that counts. If you have an A and a D on every target, that counts. The same as those 2 A's. And, so sometimes what I'll do is I'll take a look at them and say, hey, look, how are you shooting this? You're shooting very nice tight groups in the center of every target, but that's not what's needed to go fast. Not here. So you got to push yourself a little bit. I think, that the gun transition thing is a huge part. And I also think, as the sport gets tougher, you also got to look at your physical condition. A lot of matches are really physical. Rocky Mountain, the match where I first met you. If you go to Rocky Mountain, you can be the greatest shooter in the country. If you're not in good physical shape, that match will shoot you up and spit you out. And that's another part of training and conditioning that I think as better and better shooters evolve in the sport, that means just as much to a degree as shooting ability.
Mm-hmm. When you work with juniors at like the junior camps that you instruct at, do you prescribe like any sort of like physical fitness regimen to them?
We haven't done too much in the past. We'll talk about it a little bit about staying in shape and eating right. I think eating right and things like that, especially match day, is definitely something that's overlooked.
Mm-hmm.
Let's face, a lot of our matches, you start shooting at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, and you might not get done till 4:30 in the afternoon. If you don't eat a good breakfast and you don't have a snack or you don't eat something in the middle of the day, your body is not going to perform like it would if you're getting the proper amount of nutrition and especially hydration.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think some people overlook as well. And I've been guilty of that myself. I used to not like to eat a whole lot on match day. And I started finding out, especially as I got a little older, unfortunately, that, man, at the end of the day, I'd be like, man, I'm dragging. I thought, I got to eat more. So now, I make sure I try to drink a bottle of water at every stage. I'll take protein bars or a sandwich or some kind of a banana or something fairly healthy to eat a couple times throughout the day. And I've definitely found that, at the end of the day, I'm not as tired. I don't feel as fatigued. And it's not only the physicality of that, but I think it's the mental mistakes people make. If you're fatigued and you're tired or you're really hot and you're kind of dehydrated, that's when you also make mental mistakes.
Oh, yeah.
And just like the physical part of the sport, the mental part is huge. If you can't go with your game plan, or if you are trying to stay focused, and let's say you screw up a reload or you get something out of order, if you fall apart mentally because you're fatigued, that's going to really have a negative impact on your stage. If you can quickly recover and get back in the game mentally, that's going to be something that's going to give you the edge on someone who doesn't do that.
Yeah.
And the physical part's there too. Physical, you can be drained physically, you can be drained mentally. So if you're not getting good nutrition, if you're not in decent physical shape, those are things that are going to affect your shooting.
Yeah, it's amazing how much like hydration has an effect on your mental game.
Yeah.
I just this last weekend I shot a club match and I went out on Friday to help set it up. and both days were 95 to 100 degrees. And the first day, I definitely did not have enough water. Tried to power through it in the evening, drink a bunch of water and stuff. But by the second day, like, I was already done for. And when I got to our last stage of the day, I had a rifle malfunction, which I never have, and I had to mortar the thing. And then that was at the beginning of the stage, and then it was just a train wreck after that, Dean. Like, I couldn't get it together after that.
Yeah, and that's with the junior shooters and new shooters, I try to tell them, look, mentally you got to stick to your plan. Even if you get a jam and you got to do a reload, if you were going to do another reload at a certain spot,
yeah,
but now you think, well, I just did a reload, it doesn't matter. Do that reload. Stick to your plan. And that's one of those things also about being prepared. I see a lot of guys go out on the range and, well, I just need this much ammo. Look, I may be a pack mule, but I'm going to carry extra. I'm going to carry at least one or two more mags than I think I need.
Yeah.
I'm going to carry extra shot shells, because if something bad does happen, and all of a sudden now in the back of your mind, you're thinking, oh, I had to do that reload. I'm out of mags. I got to count these rounds, and I got to shoot every round out of these last two mags, or I'm going to run out of ammo. That's going to have a drastic impact on how fast you shoot, and you're going to be thinking about something else. But if hey, I dropped that mag, it's no big deal. It cost me a second. I have plenty of ammo to finish the stage. That's something that is going to allow you to stay in that game mentally. It's not going to be a distraction. I've seen guys, come out of a van or come out of off a barricade or do something and knock shock shells off, their carriers or something, and all of a sudden be worrying about trying to pick them up. Well, if I know I have an extra, 12 pack on my belt, guess what? I can drop a couple, and I'm not too worried about it.
Yeah.
And I think that's something for the newer shooters. Sometimes shooters look at me and they're like, well, new shooter. I'm like, look, you need at least 5 or 6 pistol mags. Well, we're never going to have 100 round. I said, no, you're not going to have 100 round stage. But if you need 3 mags, I'm going to carry 4 or 5. And the other aspect is the same in the same realm is, look, if you have a jam with the mag 2 stages in a row, you don't want to use that mag. You want to be able to mark it, throw it in the bag, and know you have plenty of ammo still to shoot the rest of the match in your other magazines, and not be concerned about using something that's faulty, because that has an impact on you mentally as well.
Yeah. Plus, like you said, dropping a mag or going to war on a target, and now you're behind. Yeah, there's all kinds of compelling reasons to carry more ammo.
Yep, it's much more, I believe, a mental game than a lot of people believe. Especially new people coming in. I've seen some guys that are really good shooters, and probably above average shooters for an entry level guy, but mentally they don't have what it takes, and that can be punishing on an individual, especially their ego. I've seen some guys that shoot really fast, and they come in and they just think, man, I'm gonna blaze this down, but mentally they start to fall apart, and then they don't understand why. Man, I watched that guy shoot, and he was kind of slow, but he kicked my butt. Well, he didn't miss. He stayed with his game plan, and he followed through with his stage plan, and that sometimes is where you see the difference between somebody who's going to do well and somebody who's going to falter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen several people like that over the years where you watch them shoot, like maybe in practice or on like one stage, and like they're just freaking killing it. But over the course of a match, they just, I don't know, like you said, the mental game seems to fall apart, and you're able to eke by them, just by maintaining that steady pace.
Yeah, and that's a big part of it. I know one of the guys who Randy Hallbush, the guy who took me to DPMS for the first time, one of the best pieces of advice he gave me, and unfortunately I don't always listen, is don't beat anybody else. Make them beat you. Don't worry about beating anybody. Make them beat you. Just be consistent. Don't worry about how fast they shot the stage. You shoot the stage to your best of your ability. Make them beat you. And if you do that, you can be successful. And that's one of my things. I think I'm a very consistent shooter. I am probably not going to roll in and blaze a whole bunch of stages, but I'm very steady. I've shot a bunch of big matches clean, like no penalties, and they're guys that'll be, man, I crushed you on that stage. Okay. But down the road, you're probably going to crash and burn. And I think 3-gun is very much about consistency.
Yeah. It's very much a marathon game,
Yep. I've seen guys that are amazing pistol shooters blow through pistol stages and, man, I kicked your butt. Okay. And then you go to long range or something and they can't hit a target.
Right.
Or the next stage they try to go really fast and, well, yeah, you went really fast, but you had 3 misses. And where I may not shoot every stage blazing fast, but I try to be as consistent as possible. One of the things I know Greg Jordan's big thing is don't miss. He's 1 for 1. And Danny's very much the same way. And you watch those top shooters, they go very fast, obviously, but very rarely do they miss. And that's through hours of practice and obviously a great deal of dedication to the sport. And that's something I think a lot of young shooters and people that are getting into the sport, they just want to go fast. They see, some of the better shooters blazing through a stage, and they're like, I can shoot that fast. Well, anybody can shoot fast, but it's very difficult to shoot fast and hit.
Very true.
And those guys, one of the things they'll tell you is go 1 for 1. Doesn't matter how fast you shoot it. If you go 1 for 1, you're probably going to be successful.
It's cheaper that way too.
Oh yeah, there's a big learning curve. I've had a lot of people, when they ask for classes or they, even going to some other classes, people are like, well, that's a lot of money. If I spend $100 or $150 for a class, I'm like, but the things you will learn from experienced shooters is going to save you a lot of money in the long run.
Oh, totally.
And in all honesty, most shooters, one of the things I enjoy is helping others and teaching other people about the shooting sports. And I think some of the best times I've had is when we're squatted with, some inexperienced shooters and you get to help them. And, you're telling them a stage plan, or you see their stage plan, you're like, you tap them on the shoulder, like, look, you don't want to do that. Just do this, come over here, and they do it and they're successful. And they're like, man, I never thought of that. Or, I appreciate you telling us that because, I was going to shoot it a different way. And that to me is probably one of the most rewarding things about being in the shooting sports is helping, new shooters and seeing young kids that you've trained or you've, seen grow up and become successful.
Absolutely. Yeah. It really does keep the tradition alive and the culture of 3-gun healthy when you can, reach down and pull someone up to the same level that you're at or even ahead of you.
Yeah.
I like it. Well, Dean, last topic I want to talk about here is your 3-man 3-gun. This is a very famous match, and there's been a lot of people that have done tribute matches as well. In their own local areas, and the team match is like a format that people seem to love, and it's something I really enjoy. I have a great time doing it. Where did the idea for the team match come from?
It actually came from York. There's a local club, a York Isaac Walton League around here, and they ran a team match probably 6 years ago or so, and that was the first team match we shot. And it was a lot of fun. And I mean, we just had a ball. We're like, man, this is so much fun. You're shooting together with your buddies. Instead of competing against all of them, you got your 2 other men or your 2 other women you're shooting with. And stage designs could be changed. And it just changed the whole concept. And it was a really successful platform. We all had a great time. And I'm like, man, I want to run one of these. And I just wanted to, I don't know if I want to say take it to the next level, but we wanted to do something big. And I ran the first match I ran. It was a zombie match. And honestly, the reason we ran it is I wasn't sure how successful it would be. And at the time, the zombie stuff was real big and popular. And I said, well, I'll use these zombie targets, and I'll pull in a whole bunch of shooters that maybe would be normally scared or not as interested in shooting 3-gun, but because it's this zombie theme, I probably can get them to come and shoot it. And it worked. We had a blast. I mean, the worst thing in the world, though, was my ROs really hated me because they were black and gray zombie targets. And if you've been an RO long enough, you know finding a 223 hole on a black and gray zombie target is not the easiest thing to do. And my ROs were like, if you ever use those targets again, we will not come back. It was difficult to see hits. But and then from there, it just really took off. I mean, this last match, I believe we filled up almost 90 teams. I had the match full in about 7 or 8 hours. So we'll have well over 330 people. And we've shot 8 stages in 1 day. Which is really, I mean, if you think about running over 300 people through 8 stages in usually about 9 hours.
Yeah.
It's a really good format. It's so much fun. I think one of the things about it is we all got into 3-gun, I think partially because of the camaraderie.
Yep.
And most 3-gun shooters are the type of person that, you know, we enjoy the social aspect of the sport as well as the competition side. And this gives you both of those. You know, you're cheering for your teammates. You can obviously coach your teammates. And it's just a different, you know, it's so different than the individualized side of the sport that we all see that I think it's so much fun. You know, a lot of people laugh. I mean, we have a good time. It's also fun sometimes. I mean, I've seen teammates yelling at each other, like kind of upset, you know, things don't go right. And they're like, oh, you're an idiot. What are you doing? You know, no, don't shoot that, you know, yelling at each other and getting excited. But I think at the end of the day, it's always been about having a good time as a 3-man match. And I think that's one of the things that makes it successful is that the teammates have a good time. Because, you know, doing anything by yourself is fun. But when you're doing it with some of your best friends, it's only going to be a much better time.
Yeah, no kidding. That's the truth about anything in life, really.
Yeah. And go ahead.
Oh, well, I was going to ask, what is what's like the key to winning a team match? Like, you've seen a lot of people shoot these matches over the year. Of the teams that have won, what are like the common things that they have that the other teams don't?
I think the biggest thing is being able to look in the mirror and see your weakness. Let's face it, a lot of guys that shoot 3-gun and a lot of guys involved in the shoot sports kind of type A personalities, right? You know, and the big thing with the team match is you've got to be able to say to your buddy, you're a better pistol shooter than me. You need to shoot the pistol.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I'm not a great shotgun guy. You load the shotgun like a champ. You need to shoot the shotgun. You know, and your buddy's got to be able to say, guess what? You shoot the rifle better than me. I want you to shoot the rifle on this stage. And I think that's one of the things that is going to leads to success. You know, those top teams, and we're talking about teams that have some stacked talent. And I'm not talking, you know, Danny and Joel and those guys shooting together. I mean, if you say who's the best pistol shooter, who's the best, you know, let's face it, sometimes that's tough.
Yeah.
If you just get your average team together, most of the time it's pretty easy to say, hey, you're a better pistol shooter than me, or, you know, but for those guys to admit it is still just as equally as hard. And I think coordination, you know, getting a team that works well together and can communicate is also pretty important. I've seen teams that have very good shooting talent, but they don't communicate with each other. They don't work well as a unit, falter pretty heavily. You know, when you're yelling at your friend or you're, you know, not getting along because, hey, somebody missed a target and, you know, they did something wrong, so you're yelling at them, that next stage you're probably not going to shoot as well. You know, so that communication and, you know, even being able to pick your buddy up and say, instead of saying, man, you're a jerk, you just cost us 10 seconds, say, hey, it's no big deal, we're going to pick it up in the next stage. and that attitude about, building people up instead of trying to break them down, I think is what makes the teams successful.
Right. So self-awareness, humility, coordination.
Yep. And that communication, being able to communicate with each other, and, because we do allow coaching, and only positive coaching. I even allow, like, if the person is on your team and somebody's going to run by a target, I don't care who yells, "Hey, you missed it," but there's no negative coaching.
Okay.
And that's, if you yell, "Hey, you missed that target," and they didn't miss it, you're going to get penalized. That's unsportsmanlike conduct. But because some of the way the stages are, maybe your two teammates are already around a burn. And if you're doing something and somebody else is going to be positive and say, "Hey, you missed that target," or, do something, you missed that, or, "Hey, don't go back there." And, sometimes you have to do a physical task or something like that. I allow any type of coaching, but it has to be positive. And I think that goes back to why we all shoot, because, we enjoy hanging out with each other and we enjoy that camaraderie. So if you're going to be a jerk and yell at somebody and try to cause them time, I'm going to punish you. Or I'll probably DQ them, in all honesty, because that's not what it's about.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, I like that. Well, Dean, you've 14 years in the shooting sports. You've got a lot of time in it now. Where do you see the sport of three-gun headed?
I hope, and I think I kind of see it going back to some of its roots as far as it being fun. I mean, sponsorship and supporting the companies that support the sport are very, very important. And that's something I think every shooter has to believe in, is that you support the companies that support the sport. There are a lot of great firearms manufacturers. There are a lot of great optics manufacturers. There's a lot of great ammunition companies out there, all those things. But a lot of them are not willing to put that investment into the sport. And I think as shooters, we need to support those companies that do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one thing I'm really glad to see is those long-term matches. Rocky Mountain, Fort Benning came back after a few-year hiatus. Superstition Mountain, Task Force Dagger has been around for a long time. Blue Ridge is always a great match. I think going back to those core matches is a great thing, because I think those are the matches where three-gun really started. Look, Three-Gun Nation, I think there's the UML League now, or is that what it is?
Yeah.
I hate to say I mean, those organizations have all done things for the sport, and I think can do things for the sport. But I hope it goes back to its core, which is just a great group of people getting together for a weekend, enjoying the Second Amendment, being competitive, but still remembering it's about having fun and being around good people doing things we all love.
I love that vision, Dean. That warms my heart to think about a future where we all just get together and enjoy our freedoms and the freedoms afforded to us. Well, Dean, this has been a ton of fun, man. I really enjoyed digging into three-gun with you, also talking about your life outside of three-gun. And this has just been a great time, man. I appreciate your time in sharing your evening with the Three-Gun Show audience. And want to give you one last opportunity to share one thought or one piece of advice that you can leave the audience with.
Oh man, now you hit me up with a tough one. I think my biggest piece of advice is share your love of the sport with someone else. Pass on what you've learned to others so that, future generations can have as much fun as we do.
I love it, man. That's a great final thought. Again, Dean, thank you for your time, man. I really appreciate everything that you've shared with us today, and thanks for being on the Three-Gun Show.
No problem, man. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Hey, before you take off, be sure to check out the show notes at threegunshow.com/episode 198 for links to things that we discussed in the podcast, including your chance to win a JP rifle topped with a Vortex Optics Viper PST 1-6, and your raffle entry fee goes to support the the Task Force Dagger Foundation, which is a very good cause. 3gunshow.com/episode 198. Click on the link. Enter as many times as you want. All that money goes to Task Force Dagger. It supports a good cause, and you have an opportunity to win a sweet rifle with a sweet scope.
This podcast is brought to you by Armalite. The original Armalite rifles put the AR in AR-15. The rifles themselves come with 1 8 twist barrels, match barrels, 18-inch or 13.5-inch with a 15-inch or 12.5-inch handguard, Timney trigger, Luth AR stock, adjustable gas system, tunable comp, a patented tunable comp. This thing's ready to go right out of the box for a 3-gun with no additional modifications other than putting on a nice optic. I myself use a Vortex Viper PST 1-6 when I'm shooting TAC Ops or their Spitfire when I'm shooting limited. Check them out at armalite.com.
Quick reminder that if you enjoyed this episode of the podcast, subscribe in iTunes, Google Play, Podcast Addict, or wherever you get your podcast content, so you will always get the very latest. Thank you so much for downloading, listening, and subscribing to the show. I'm Dave Hartman, and I'll see you on the range.
If you are finished, unload, show clear.